Good morning. It's Monday, June 29th, and today I want to talk about a large group of citizens who are residents of the United States. And the population of this group of citizens is larger than the population of people living in Vermont or Wyoming. These citizens have the same voting rights as the citizens living in our territories: Guam, the Marianas, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, and American Samoa. That means that their representatives go to Congress and everything, but they can't vote on anything. And this group of citizens that we are talking about pays more federal taxes per capita than any state. So think about that. They have a representative in Congress, but he can't vote, or she can't vote. As a result of that, since its status is not that of a state, the area they live in is not a state, they didn't receive the fair share of money during the coronavirus, right? So it's a lose-lose situation. Now, these citizens have one exception: they can vote for the president. I'm talking about the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. Now, I've been to Washington, D.C., and I've been to the monuments, and I've been to the Smithsonian, I've been to the Holocaust Museum. I've been in many places in Washington. And the thing that impressed me more than anything else was when I would go out for a run in the morning and run through the local neighborhoods. They are some of the poorest neighborhoods in this country. They are large slums, and they are not more than half a mile from the White House. I'm not here to talk about the slums or anything. I'm here to talk about something that happened in Congress the other day. Congress passed a bill to make D.C. the 51st state. They passed this bill with a vote of 232 to 180, with one Democrat voting with the Republicans. All the Republicans voted against it, and one Democrat voted against it. The bill is aptly named H.R. 51. You can understand why. And the state name under the bill would be the Washington Douglas Commonwealth, WDC. Now, the Douglas in the name stands for Frederick Douglass, who was a black abolitionist, and he lived in Washington, D.C. for the last 17 years of his life. Douglass was an escaped slave. He escaped from Maryland, and he became the national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York. And he also was an orator and a writer and a statesman. He was quite famous in his day. So under the bill, the state's territory would include all of the district's current territory, but not the monuments or the federal buildings such as the White House and the Capitol building. Now, this vote, which took place on Friday, is the first time a Washington statehood bill has passed either chamber of Congress. A statehood bill came up back in 1993, but it failed in the House. So for the first time, this bill has gotten past the House and is now on its way to the Senate. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, hailed the bill's passage on Twitter. She said, "I was born without representation, but I swear I will not die without representation." So she believes that they have an opportunity to achieve D.C. statehood. And Eleanor Norton, who's their non-voting representative in Congress, made the statement that they have a moral obligation to give D.C. statehood because of the tax situation, because they pay more taxes than anybody else. And Congressman Butterfield, a Democrat from North Carolina, said it was a grave injustice that the residents of the district did not have full representation because the large majority of that population is black, and they ran away to Washington, D.C. to get away from the segregated South. And so we owe them. But Jody Hice, Republican senator from Georgia, said the push for statehood was really about getting two more Democratic senators. And now this bill is in the hands of Mitch McConnell, the most evil man in government. And as I see it, there's very little chance that this thing will ever come to the Senate floor for a vote or anything. And even if it does come to the Senate floor, these are the things that you're liable to hear. The president moved the National Guard in to address a local policing matter, and that couldn't have happened if they were a state. So the Democrats argue that it's very unfair for D.C. not to be a state. They have the population size to be a state. They support the federal government like a state does. And they're tired of being run by the federal government because a lot of what goes on is run by the federal government. Which basically means that the money they pay in taxes, they're not getting back their fair portion of that money. And since a major portion of that population is black, it means they have been disenfranchised for a long, long time. And the Democrats believe that has to stop. And the Republicans say that giving the district statehood would give too much power to the capital and would cause other constitutional problems. And Trump has said he will veto the bill if it comes up to him. But we know it'll never get there because McConnell will make sure it never gets there. And Trump has also objected to statehood because he knows that the Democrats will win the state, and then the district voters who chose Hillary Clinton by a large margin, they would have a substantial edge in Congress and the Senate, perhaps. The Constitution gives wide discretionary latitude on the conditions for admitting a state, but it's very vague on the subject of Washington. It just says that the district must be smaller than 10 square miles. Now, here's what I think. I think both sides are only concerned with one issue, and that's maintaining or gaining power in the government, maintaining their position in the government. So for the Republicans, that means we need less Democrats. And for the Democrats, that means we need more Democrats. I don't think the people of D.C. matter one bit in this whole equation. Therefore, on a scale of 1 to 10, who's being more truthful? I think the Republicans are more truthful than the Democrats. I give the Republicans between an 8 and a 9 because they admit that they don't want this because they don't want to have the competition, give the competition an edge. Now, I'm sure that if this situation was reversed and there were more people in the district voting Republican, then the Republican would be taking the Democrat stance, and the Democrats would be taking the Republican stance. And that's the way it is in this country. We are a polarized nation. We do not really care about what the people are. We are only interested in preserving whatever power structure we believe we have. And so we will continue to cater to the sources that we believe that are going to vote for us. And we will encourage some terrible organizations because of that ideal. So I think we will remain a divisive nation. We lie, etc., etc., etc. I'll see you in the morning.